That's going.
Welcome to the Jeffers Brief, only on Contra Radio Network.
Welcome. This service is provided by freeconferencecall.com. There is one host and one participant in this conference.
And hello, John Jeffers here for another episode of the Jeffers Brief, only on CRN. Let's see if we can't get the screen cleared up a little bit here before we get started. We're cleared out. Very good. Who's on the line with me here?
This is Gary.
Gary Mull from Louisiana. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. You know, you broke my heart. You broke my heart when you said, I missed the show. It's like, okay, Gary must have missed the 13 million memos that were on podbean.com. No problem, brother. We got you straight. You're good to go.
Well, when I seen it say go live at 7 o'clock, I thought, finally, it's back on.
I haven't been off. But anyways, you know, tonight, I got to tell you, man, I am up to here, livid. You know, for weeks and months, for you patriots out there have been following the attempted coup d'etat against the President of the United States. And now the Democrats, the four top Democrats in D.C. have actually put their crap in writing. Urging, mind you, urging the Director Wray, Rosensnake over at DOJ, the DNI, not to deliver and declassify the unredacted paper that proves that this whole thing is a hoax. The whole Russia collusion thing is a hoax. The fact that people are in legal jeopardy because they put it in writing and they published it and they sent it out, it's no longer an attempted coup. It is, in fact, a coup. Now, a word of warning, because I know they don't listen. I know they don't. But I do know the NSA does, and maybe they'll pass the message to them. Any director of any federal agency who refuses a direct presidential order is guilty of insubordination and needs to be fired immediately. Done. And as for Jeff Sessions, who knows where he's at? He's in the closet worried about people smoking marijuana. Like I could care less about that right now. Not that I cared about that much to begin with, but that's his focus. Don't care. You know, in lieu of the fact that if it turns out, especially Rosensnake over at DOJ, if he even slow walks it, the president should order the U.S. Marshal Service to go over to the Hoover Building and seize said documents. Seize them. This is playing out to become a constitutional crisis that's been fomented by the four top Democrats in D.C. Schumer, Warner, Pelosi, and that goofy Adam Schiff. Those four. They are treading on Leavenworth time, and they need to be put there. If, in fact, Director Wray should have, the FBI, he should have been replaced months and months and months ago. He has no leadership skills, and frankly, I don't know. I have no idea how he got to be a position of leadership. Rosensnake, he should be in Leavenworth a long time ago. But that's okay. His time is coming. The DNI, I think his name is Booker, is the only one that has all the skeletons. And he knows where they're buried. And I don't think for a moment he's going to sit there and roll over for these people. Now, if in case you missed it, I will tell you what's happening. I want you to know because this is that important. Where is it? Where did I put it? The corruption junction. What's your function? Sorry. Sundance has put this out. Now, this is how desperation amid the Democrat members of the intelligence gain of 8. Remember, there's gain of 8. There's 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans on there. I don't know what the hell's wrong with the Republicans. They are absolutely scared of their own shadow. It just irks me to no end. It's like, why don't you guys... Well, some of them do. Most of them do not. They need to let their balls drop. And become... They do. And at one time or another, have read thousands of congressional letters and intelligence committee letters from oversight, along with more extended executive agency responses. In fact, the conservative treehouse has shared hundreds of outlines covering granular details within many of the internal memos and correspondence. However, Sundance and myself have never, and you probably haven't either, not in your lifetime. The closest it ever got was Watergate. That was back in 72, 73. That's how long it's been, almost 50 years. We've never seen anything like this before. Never in American history has this happened. Now, the combination of arrogance, hubris, and desperation within the letter, and I'm going to read it to you so you know exactly what's in it. So if you ever run across one of these clown liberals out there, you can say, no, I know what the letter says. I heard it. And all right. So from the 4 Democrats in the intelligence oversight gain of 8, it's palpable, even in the text format. They are so desperate. They want to know. So the legislative branch members, Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, and Warner, write a letter to the Director of National Intelligence, DNI, Dan Coates. It wasn't Booker, it was Coates. And to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosensnake and FBI Director Christopher Wray, demanding the executive branch cabinet members withhold information from the White House in violation of a direct presidential order. Perhaps more stunningly and extra-constitutionally, meaning outside the framework of constitutional separation of power, within the jaw-dropping letter, the 4 Democrats outlined previous verbal conversations and current agreements with Coates, Rosensnake, and Wray, where the cabinet officers agreed to keep information away from the White House chief executive, who is the president. Oh. So now we're hiding information. Here's the letter. This is the letter. Dear Director Coates, Deputy Attorney General Rosensnake, and Director Wray, we write to express profound alarm at President Donald Trump's decision on September 17, 2018, to intervene in an ongoing law enforcement investigation that may implicate the President himself or those around him. The action he has taken to direct your agencies to selectively disclose classified information that he believes he can manipulate publicly to undermine the legitimacy and credibility of the special counsel's investigation. Wow, legitimacy and credibility. I'm surprised I have any of that left. Is a brazen abuse of power. Now, any decision by your offices to share this material with the President or his lawyers will violate long-standing Department of Justice policies as well as assurances you have provided to us. Really? And what assurances are those? On June 5th, 2018, we first wrote to Deputy Attorney General Rosensnake and Director Wray to express deep concern that the President and his legal team sought to abuse the President's power, but which, by the way, he's not abusing the power. He is very well endowed with that power from the Constitution to interfere with the special counsel's ongoing investigation and undermine the Department of Justice and FBI's lawful and appropriate activities. We underscored that providing the White House and the President's lawyers access to classified information and investigatory material of the utmost sensitivity, including information related to the special counsel's investigation that implicates the President's own campaign and associates, would grossly violate our system of checks and balances. Personal note here. I got an idea. How about members of Congress and the Senate interfering with the chief executives? How about that? How about that gross violation? So I'm sorry, getting back to it. So they violate our system of checks and balances, fundamental norms, and long-standing, well-founded, and established procedure. Absent an indictment, Moreover, the subjects of federal investigations should not be able to access law enforcement or related national security information for any reason. Now, there's a problem there. They've said all along, especially Mueller, who says that Trump is not the target of any investigation. And that's about, take it for what it's worth, which is practically nothing. I wouldn't trust that any farther than I could throw Gary Mull from here to Louisiana. That ain't going far. So on June 27th, 2018, we wrote again to memorialize the verbal assurance you provided us that the DOJ and FBI would not provide the White House or any of the president's attorneys with access to sensitive information briefed to a small group of designated members. Now, the third paragraph is particularly interesting. The verbal assurance you provided us that DOJ and FBI would not provide the White House. In military lingo, we would say Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Why would the Trump DOJ and FBI be giving Pelosi Incorporated assurances of their intent to withhold intelligence from the White House? Why would Rosensnake and Ray be giving assurances at all? So as you can see, this goes on and on. Now the letter reeks of corruption, manipulative intent, and between the lines admissions of gross intelligence abuses. Additionally, the appearance of a visible alignment between corrupt executive branch officials, Ray, Rosensnake, and possibly Coates. I'm not sure Coates is in there yet, because I want you to take a breather here. With Coates is the man who, if we look back on history years from now, will probably be the man who actually stopped a constitutional crisis. So it's jaw-droppingly obvious about the corrupt oversight intelligence officials, Schiff, Warner, Pelosi, and Schumer. This corrupt and self-interested alignment has always belayed our optimism that President Trump had a cabinet willing to confront institutional corruption. Our concern has always been that these aligned officials will fight against President Trump's sunlight request. Now, likely, D&I Coates will release the declassified FISA portions as requested. Thankfully, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, judicial branch, supports the executive branch in this approach. However, we should probably temper optimism, at least in timing, surrounding the emails and text messages from Orr, Comey, Page, Stroke, and McCabe. I'm not going to call him Strzok. He's Stroke. That's his new name, Stroke. These bogus, declassified releases are more dependent on the corrupt DOJ and FBI. Assurances? Here, I got your assurances. F you, swamp. That's your corrupt assurances. That's what you get for that. And the swamp is very deep. Think about it. Oh, I just can't stand it anymore. But here we are, nonetheless. We have, once again, how long is it going to take? It should only take Devin Nunes came out the other day and said it was only 2 or 3 days for the actual paperwork to be declassified. So there we go. That is not my dog. That's Gary's dog. My dog is sleeping like a good boy.
That.
My dog is sleeping right next to me. He's a good boy. So that's where we're at right here. Now, as long as we're talking about this, I want to talk about something else with you. Let's talk about this. How to survive martial law. Because I got a feeling, if this plays out, and God, think about it. Think about the many avenues that this could play out. The worst that it could be, and is this: we end up in another American Civil War, the American Civil War 2.0, and it'll make version 1.0 absolutely look like a cartoon. That's how bad it will be. And I want to remind you liberals out there that may be listening in, I tell you this: there will be no rules of engagement. Remember that. Know that. Learn it. Love it. Live it. Remember it. Preppers will has this to say about it. So let's talk a little bit about how to survive martial law, because if it comes down to it, it's going to be a real mess. I kid you not. Because we live in uncertain times with constant threats knocking at our doors. One day we might live under martial law, and although the use of martial law should bring an end to the scenario that imposed it, most of the times it'll lead to further violence and chaos. The United States, like many other nations, has a long history when it comes to martial law, and some fear it may soon be upon us. The current scenarios that foresee martial law are all related to ISIS attacks that could happen on U.S. soil. This is why you need to have a strategy for dealing when martial law hits. Now remember, this was written in 2015. I say, yeah, ISIS could happen on U.S. soil, but I think what we're looking at mostly is this. What if we end up with our country being divided as it is, we end up in an ACW 2.0. That's what I'm saying. So let's figure this out here. What is martial law? When is it declared? It's nothing more than the imposition of military rule and a takeover of the government for a specific region. Now, martial law is declared when there's an imminent threat to peace and order. It can be imposed in any of the following situations: uncontrollable riots and protests. A good example, Muslims protest in France. Just a matter of time until it happens in the United States. Natural disasters that are too overwhelming for local authorities. Katrina, good reminder of what nature can unleash. A state of war. Or, in the case that I'm kind of leaning towards, insurrection or rebellion. Right now, the deep state is in absolute insurrection against the President of the United States. Now, we value our liberty and freedom. We love our way of life. This is why some of us being stripped of certain civil rights is unthinkable. And we fear that giving absolute power to someone will lead to abuses against the general public. During martial law, everyone is expected to follow the rules, no questions asked. It doesn't matter if you think it's right or wrong. You must follow the orders during martial law. The military will not answer to people. They will be the law. Now, these rights that are suspended under martial law are the right of information, the right of habeas corpus, freedom of expression, right to privacy, right to make choices. If you are prepared and organized, you should be able to survive martial law without too much distress. To avoid putting your family at significant risk and survive these tough times, you should do the following. And Gary is right on the money on this one. Be self-reliant. Am I right, Gary?
Yes.
There you go. Thank you.
I had to put my phone on mute for all keys went on.
I hear you. It's all right. So most preppers already set to outlast any scenario that cuts them off from all typical supply lines. This is why it'll be easier for them to survive when the government takes full control of everything, food and supplies. You shouldn't wait for the rationing done by the military. You should have your own supplies. Your supplies should last you for at least 30 days, but any prepper knows it's ideal to have supplies that last for 12 months. Your food and water supplies will become property of the government under martial law. So think about this. Don't make the mistake of blabbing what you have and what you don't have. Case and point. How many of you saw last week, before the hurricane hit the Carolinas, there was a video showing Walmart. People pushing and fighting for cases of water because they were not prepared. Fighting for food, batteries, anything they thought they might need. They waited till the last minute. Store shelves were being stripped in hours. They couldn't even keep the supplies coming in fast enough. But that video, if you're a prepper, should give you, one, comfort that you know that you are much better off than 95% of the country, and two, is to give you chills up your spine because of the way people act. And the hurricane hadn't even hit yet. Think about it. So having a method to generate electricity is also ideal. You'll be able to use it for many tasks under martial law, from cooking to charging your devices, UV water filters, lanterns, etc. Try to get your hands on some portable generators that are easy to carry, that don't make noise, as you don't want to attract unwanted attention. Bartering is also an excellent way to get what you need. Stockpiling items that will give you the upper hand and increase your chances of survival. Bartering will assure your survival under martial law. Now, have a bug out bag ready. We're going to talk about bug out bags shortly. Now, in some cases, you will see signs that alert you of martial law being imminent. And in times like this, you'll have to take a decision. You either stay in and hunker down, or you leave and go to a safer area. Some know that staying in a highly populated area is a certain death and have an escape route planned out. Inner city people. If leaving your home is not a choice for you and your family, bugging in will be your last resort. So your bug out bag should contain the following. I don't agree with that. Bugging in may be your best choice because you're not going to be able to take all of your supplies with you. But if you have to get out, here's what you need on your bag. This is basic stuff. Nothing major. Food and water for at least 72 hours. That's 3 days for you people in California. Not that you listen. A first aid kit, pieces of clothing for all types of weather, a sturdy pair of boots. That'd be like work boots for you habitually unemployed. Flashlights and batteries. Cooking equipment, navigation equipment. Protection items, a handgun, melee type weapon, stun gun, etc. And a radio, because you got to get information. Now, stay safe when martial law is declared. During martial law, you need to avoid areas that are exposed to social revolts and danger. You have to protect your house with an alarm system, if it's still up and running. Keep it locked and secure your proprieties. Keeping a low profile by following the rules is also a good idea. But you have to think before you do it. If someone tells you to jump off a cliff, would you do it? So think before you act and decide on an individual case-by-case basis before rebelling against the rules. What he's saying is this. If you choose to make a major decision, you need to have good decision-making skills. Now's the time to start to develop them. Try to look 2, 3, 4 steps down the road. If I do this, this may be a result of it, or an answer. What is my answer to their answer? So basically, you're going to answer, counter-answer, counter-counter-answer, counter-counter-counter-answer, and down the line. That's how you do it. So make sure you respect the curfew under martial law. However, if you don't, make sure you have all the means to protect yourself and survive what will unfold. And it will unfold eventually. Now tune in and listen during martial law. During martial law, the media will be controlled by the federal government. And to obtain valuable information, you need to stay tuned to official broadcasts. You all need to be up to date with the imposed rules, and you'll be able to plan your next move. The rules will keep changing, and you need to be aware of them in order to survive. If you have a weather radio, the NOAA frequencies, those will be used for official lines of communication. You will also need to tap into ham radio to communicate with people that are off the grid, like Gary, to get the unofficial information. It is better to know both sides of the story before you act. We are already enough bombarded with media propaganda. The last thing you need to do is to be misinformed during martial law. Information is key to survival when martial law is in effect, and you need to know what happens around you. Gary, feel free to jump in anytime. It's all right, brother.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Just want to make sure you can jump in anytime.
You're hitting the nail on the head.
Okay. All right. This is important.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Like you said, having a second source, because I think they could actually try to trick people into coming forward just to be able to give them a hard way to go.
It could very well be.
So I think having a second source of information is definitely key to the survival thing.
I agree. Now this is important. I talked about this, I think, last month and a half ago. Stay in shape. Learn and improve your skills. Now, for those of you that have been following me, I dropped another 3 pounds. I started at 300. I'm down to 277 now. I'm almost at my first goal. 275 is my first goal. And once I hit that, I'll make another goal. So, just so we know. It can be done, people. Trust me. Now, this is a general rule for every prepper, and it's something that can prove useful in every crisis scenario, not only during martial law. Preparedness is nothing without knowledge and a good set of skills. You will run out of food and water, and you will run out of guns and ammo. You will get hurt, and then what? So that being said, you need to know how to make or procure your food, how to find and purify water, how to heal yourself, and so on. These are the things that one should learn in advance and practice them with every occasion. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about real quickly is this. It is proven, if you stay in shape, if you exercise regularly, your body will heal much faster. Okay?
Yeah, because your blood sugar's not as high.
You're damn right. In fact, speaking of blood sugar, my AC1 went from 7.2 to 6.8. Yay.
Very good.
And that's because I got off the couch. Don't get me wrong, people. I go crazy. When it comes time, I drive my wife nuts. Because I'll sit there, I'll turn on Lou Dobbs. Love Lou Dobbs. Turn on the news. I'll do, I don't want to be caught unprepared. And I get crazy about that sometimes. And I think as preppers, we all do it one time or another. I'm in one of these phases right now. So take some first aid courses. Learn how to cook without modern means. How to hunt and fish. Anything that you think one day may come in handy. So being able to survive on your own during martial law will also require a lot of effort. Maybe you have to bug out, and climbing is involved. Or perhaps you have to build a shelter or do home repairs, etc. All these activities are going to leave you weak and tired, and you don't need this during a crisis. That's why you stay in shape. That's why you exercise, build up your stamina. Absolutely. Now, you should never be alone.
I'll tell you what helps too, and know your surrounding areas.
Mm-hmm.
If you live in a wooded area, know what plants you can actually eat and prepare for meals. We've been practicing a lot of bushcraft and stuff.
Yeah.
My kids can build a hut up overnight and have a place to stay real quick. But you want to learn the stuff you can eat on the ground, the berries not to eat, and so forth, because those are a meal if you have no fish or anything else, or a deer running by.
You reminded me of something, Gare. Now look, I know a lot of you are Christians out there. I want you to put a wall between this and what I'm going to tell you. If you have any way to get a hold of somebody that is a Wiccan, that is, they're a witch, they practice Wiccan, they know a whole lot about exactly what Gary is talking about. What plants are okay to eat, which ones are not, which ones are used for healing, which ones are not.
And you'd be surprised. You can go to the library and they have all kinds of books on mushrooms and so forth, and you can study them up, and it also shows how to,
Mm-hmm.
We've got books that show how, and I got books mainly for my kids that shows how to do huts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It shows the vegetarian stuff you can eat,
right?
The animals that you don't normally eat that you would eat, that you might consider have to eat.
Right.
And it shows all that stuff. My kids pretty much open anything. They go in the woods. Hey, Dad, is this eatable? I don't know. We'll have to look that one up.
That's the point we're trying to make here. So, desperate times will say, look, you should never be alone. You're going to need friends during martial law. This idea that you're going to lone wolf it and go up to the mountaintop and shout from there is pure fantasy. Desperate times will require teamwork, and having an alliance, for example, a prepper group, can become crucial for survival under martial law. You should build a support system with your friends and neighbors. You can help each other out. It will increase your chances of survival without getting into trouble. Before you build trustworthy relationships with your neighbors, you should act carefully. You need to be certain they share the same views as you do. You don't need a friend that will report you for having a stockpile of food and guns just to save his ass when martial law hits. Here's one. Keep your mouth shut during martial law. Don't talk about supplies because preppers are preppers have a tendency to talk, especially when they think they're amongst friends. So don't talk about your supplies and about how well prepared you are. This can get you into a lot of trouble during martial law. Desperate times create desperate people, and these people will do anything to survive, including harming you and your loved ones to get their hands on your supplies. This is why you need to keep it all to yourself and talk about your prepping habits only with your family and close friends. Now, for myself, Mark, Dawn, and Rob, it's too late for us. Everybody that listens to this show knows. So in times of martial law, you never know how everything will play out, and you need to be selfish. Selfish about sharing information, selfish about sharing supplies. You should share only with your family and close friends, and that if you have enough supplies. It might sound harsh, but it'll keep you alive under martial law. So be calm. Think before you act. In any type of crisis...
The biggest thing is you always want to make sure you have a game plan.
Always.
Just like with what you described there in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
We both know people through Contra Radio or just our group friends that were already prepared long before the storm, and they actually came through remarkably well.
Right.
Where other ones, when they could have prepared, they thought, oh, it ain't going to be that bad, or they didn't have the money to do it. Because I talked to one lady, and they said, oh, we got to wait till Friday to get gas. Well, the storm was already going to be there.
It's too late.
Yeah, so it's like, wow, okay,
Here's something else. Be calm. Think before you act. Now I did a show a couple weeks ago about the types of preppers to avoid. Do not get with somebody who talks loud, advocates being a Rambo. Don't do it. Stay away from them. Far away from them. It's because any type of crisis panicking will get you in trouble and you will make matters worse. The first thing you have to do in harsh times is to remain calm and carefully plan your next steps, like Gary's talking about. It will make the difference between life and death. And you should put your best effort to remain composed. It's very difficult, especially under critical incident circumstances and situations, to keep calm. It takes police officers a long time to get that. You don't believe me? They showed a video last night of a guy down in Florida in a child's bedroom. Dad went in there, saw him. He jumped out of the girl's bedroom window. The cops came, and the dog is on him, chewing on him like a chew toy. Thought he was like a milk bone dispenser, just chewing on his ass. But the video, has the audio going, and the cop is screaming into the radio. You can't hear a word he's saying. This is what I'm talking about. You have to try to remain as composed as you can. If you can remain calm and you remain composed, your intellectual level will be higher. Whereas if you're emotional, intellect is low, emotions high, you make bad decisions. You have to do the inverse. Emotions low, intellect high. Okay? Panic.
That puts you one step ahead again.
What?
That puts you one step ahead again.
Absolutely, because you could be stepping while they're thinking of the situation. You could be thinking about 2 steps ahead of what they're thinking about. So it's going to make a difference between life and death, and you should put your best effort to remain composed. Panicking people are seen as a threat, especially under martial law. Even the most prepared soldiers will choose to eliminate a risk rather than dealing with it and see how the situation develops. Hey, look, we can't stress this enough, guys. They're going to be hyped up also. This is going to be really tough on them. American soldiers patrolling American cities, who would have thought it? So stay calm, think before you react. Rationality.
And I think in a certain predictions that during martial law, you could have soldiers from all over the world making martial law on your own soil. And
it could.
Have a language barrier. You could have a language barrier, and that'd get a lot of people killed if you're not smart.
Yeah, think about this. Think about where you live. Think about like if you live in the South, and somebody says "bless your heart." It's a colloquialism that's very local to that region of the country. You say it up there in the Northeast, they think that's something good. Down south, they're calling you a blithering idiot without calling you a blithering idiot. And like that's what Gary's talking about, is this failure to translate, lost in translation. Got to be careful. Rationality and being able to restrain your emotions will help you survive martial law. Now, plan your storage for home invasion. During martial law, hoarding foods, guns, and ammo is restricted. The military will implement house-to-house searches without a warrant. They can do it. They will put a considerable effort into locating your supplies, and once they find them, they will confiscate all you've got without thinking twice about it. This is why it's essential to plan your storage and be smart about it. Keep your supplies in areas of the house where it will not be easily found. You don't want to put all your efforts into preparing so it can go to waste in the end. This is what Gary was talking about earlier. You can use the bait method, which is having a small part of your supplies hidden without much effort. When they find your supplies, put up an act and ask them to let you keep them. They won't, but they will not put any more effort into looking for more supplies if you're convincing enough. So at that point, you have to end up like the great pretenders out in Hollywood. You have to play pretend.
In other words, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Damn right. Ask Terry about that. That when his house got burglarized, they took all his preps. Boy, was he livid about that. Act when the time is right. In the event of martial law, when the situation is at its climax, you might have to take a stand. It is your right to pick a side, and no one can take it away from you. However, before taking a chance and choosing a team, you have to be sure it suits your personal beliefs and principles. Even more, taking a stand doesn't mean you have to join the resistance and take it to the streets. There are always alternative ways of fighting for what you believe in. You just have to find a way to be safe and make yourself heard. Not everyone will find the courage to act under martial law. Keep this in mind before you jump on top of that car in the street and start playing, Rebel Without a Cause and screaming and everything. Because as soon as you start doing it, you're going to be surprised how many people get the hell away from you. They will. So keep this in mind when thinking about taking a stand. Because as soon as you start playing Patrick Henry, everybody's getting away from you. It'll be real easy to spot who the problem child is, and they will deal with it. So it'll put things in perspective. And you'll want to figure out your chances of making it out alive during martial law. There, now you have it. Gary, what do you think?
You're hitting the nail on the head. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, so sometimes you have to play dumb just to survive, so your preps don't get taken. Like you said, the backup bag, the backpack, you want to have definitely first aid kit, pocket knife, flashlight,
Oh, flashlights. Right. Flashlights. When I worked day shift in the sheriff's office, I had a flashlight with me all the time.
I actually keep one in my pocket 24/7.
Yep. You get those little small flashlights with the Cobb LEDs. They're bright as hell, and they won't get in the way. They're great. They're great. Now, some of you are asking, and Gary has listened to the show long enough. Have always asked, how do we form a group? How do I form a survival group? How do I make a prepper group? I'm going to tell you. It's not easy. It is not easy. So, again, we live in an uncertain world, and with each passing day, more and more people decide to become survivalists and preppers. Unfortunately, that path for these people chose is a path of the lone wolf. Although many aspects of preparedness tend to focus on the individual, history showed us that a united force is always stronger. Such formation has more chances of survival than, say, a single individual. So forming a survival group should be taken into consideration by all preppers. So the following suggestions will help you to get started. Humans made it so far because we are social beings. That doesn't mean Facebook and Twitter crap. It means we crave intercommunication with our own kind. And we often depend on networks of people to get things done. It doesn't matter if you're at work or if you're at home. A good network of people can make your life easier. It will provide you with emotional support. It gives you a sense of security. In an emergency situation, a survival group would make a whole lot of sense because you're building an alliance that will help you survive and thrive when things go south. Now, some may say that forming a survival group is hard. Yeah, it's not easy. That it takes a lot of work, but I think it's a matter of perspective. I admit that may be true for some, especially from those people in large communities where people will look at you funny just for saying you're a prepper. Most people don't even know what a prepper is. They have no clue. They've never heard the term. Asked the person asked the other day, "Hey, what's your show about?" Being a prepper, prepping, being a prepper, patriot. They understood patriot. Prepping and prepper, no clue. He said, "Well, what's that?" I said, "Survivalist."
Sometimes you get a dirty look for it.
Yeah, if they know, if they have a clue.
Yeah, I've had dirty looks over it.
The larger the community, the harder it will be to form a trustworthy group. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to try and do your best to raise awareness about emergency preparedness. In today's modern world, social isolation is your worst enemy when it comes to forming a survival group. So we are hooked into the digital network, and we have thousands of friends, and yet we spend most of our days alone. You cannot count on your digital friends. When disaster strikes, you have to put your faith in real people. However, if you're part of a smaller community, one that is not fond of city folks, you have a better chance of getting your survival group. Smaller communities have a bond that was perpetuated for centuries, and members of such communities care for each other. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should move out of the city, although it might be a good idea. I just want to let you know that what your chances of forming a survival group are based on your social environment. So, how do you get your own survival group? Reaching out to people. That's how you do it. You can't form a survival group without letting people know about your intentions. Reaching out to people can be difficult for some, while for others just making another sale at the office. If you live in a big city, it may be harder to form a survival group. The first thing you have to do is try to reach out to friends and people you know best. And once you have a few friends that are interested in your group, you can establish meetings to discuss more on the subject. You can also join social media groups from your area that are interested in preparedness and survival. You go to the meetings. You know people. Let them know about your survival group, and if you find them trustworthy. However, if you're part of a smaller community, even a barbecue can be a good occasion to start discussing on forming a survival group. Now, invite some friends and neighbors over to enjoy a good steak and a cold beer. Like if you go down to Gary's neck of the woods, he cooks outside all the time. By the way, Gary, I did try the grilled avocados. They're fantastic.
Very good. You are welcome to come down for a barbecue now.
Hell, I may not leave. So bring up the subject when you get the occasion. Don't make it a big announcement. Don't be ecstatic, but bring up the issue with nonchalance. You can see how things go on from there. By the end of the day, you will form an opinion on whom to contact in the coming weeks. A survival group means safety first. Safety in numbers is a tactic mankind has used since the Stone Age, and it works. A group of people offers more protection than an individual ever could. And that means Hollywood. Hollywood seems to think, I have one hero, that's all I need. And he turns out to be the master of every martial art and weapons system you can imagine. Not real.
They're full of shit.
Yes, they are. So it provides a sense of security for each member that is part of your survival group. So in every survival situation, many dangers that simply cannot be handled by a single person. Now, during civil unrest, the unprepared will go after your supplies when they get desperate. They will sell you out to get your supplies. Think about it.
If somebody's starving to death, they'll put your head in the chopping block quick.
They won't even think twice about it.
Nope.
Now, being a part of a survival group will make sure your supplies are protected. People can take turns sleeping. That's right. That's right. We still have to sleep no matter what the hell goes on, and keeping watch. If you're injured or sick, you cannot provide food or security, or having a backup is essential. So that is why you have a group. The same goes for defending your community. The more firepower you have, the better your chances of survival. This is the main argument that you should bring up when discussing with people about forming a survival group. If they understand what safety in numbers means for their future, then they will join your alliance. Now, there's an old Chinese saying, many hands make light work. So, in other words, spreading the work is easier if you have a survival group. Having a group of people working together during a crisis will significantly enhance what gets done. It will increase your chances of survival, regardless of the nature of the disaster. You can't know it all, and most certainly, you can't do it all. It is much easier to get things done when you have a proper help, and it's crucial to have the right skill set for specific survival chores. A survival group will allow each individual to focus on what he or she does best. So just look at the primitive skills alone. How many of you would love to have your own survival group? The guy building tools and shelters from scratch using wood and mud. A group of people working together will be more efficient. It makes sense because there will be those who specialize in specific skills, and you can get a whole lot more done in less time with a group. Hence, many hands make light work. Well, it's true. So, in a survival situation, time is of the essence, and a lone wolf can't do everything right under pressure. Let people know about the strengths of your group and how it can help them in an uncertain future. Now, a survival group will maximize resources. I know I keep looking at the clock because I'm.
And you can also practice some of your scenarios
Yeah.
without raising red flags.
Oh, it's true.
You can stock up and see how much food your family's going to eat in 1 week,
That's true.
and have some and learn other methods of cooking it if you don't have the means of cooking it,
No,
and
it's true.
so forth. And if you do it where it's unfamiliar, like go out in the woods and do it, or just do things in your house a little different, where you shut yourself off for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Every bit of practice you do now will help you when you're at that situation where it's not playtime anymore.
No, yeah, you're right. Now, one thing we want you to.
Never be afraid to practice
Oh,
what you're talking about, because that's where you come out ahead.
you improve your skills. It's like
Correct.
building up your stamina when you go exercise.
Yep.
A survival group can bring more resources to the table than an individual. That means more water, food, fuel, tools can be used for survival for the entire group. Some may stockpile extra fuel, while others may hoard tools due to their antique value, so to speak. Put all the resources together, and you assure a correct distribution for each member of the survival group. You'll have to worry less about the future. Not to mention that a survival group provides a resource that increases significantly with each member. And this is what Gary's talking about, knowledge. Since humans are an essential resource for every survival group, having people in your team like a doctor, a mechanic, a welder, and so on will increase the value of life for the entire alliance. Remember that when you talk with people about resources, you have to be as vague as possible. Your main point should not be about the items. Don't brag about your resources. You should emphasize the human resources you have and how they can keep the group safe. Now,
One thing I tell people when they build a first aid kit,
What's
don't
that?
be afraid to purchase things to put in your first aid kit.
oh yeah, augmented.
Benadryl.
Oh yeah,
Just don't be afraid. A good first aid kit, you might, in a year period of time, you might drop quite a bit of money on it. But if you need it, that it paid for itself right on the spot, because you have the supplies you need to make it through.
All right, here you go, people. This is the big one. Every survival group needs a leader. This is a general rule, and every group needs a leader. This is true regardless if it's a football team, a marketing team, or a form of government. In a survival situation, having a leader will make things run efficiently and nobody will be left on the outside. Most survival groups perish because the leadership issue is handled poorly. Before you solidify any survival group, you have to think about leadership, something that must be agreed upon. Remember this term, voluntary compliance. That's the only thing that keeps a survival group together. Voluntary compliance. The military doesn't use the democratic model because voting is not the quickest way to respond to a crisis, not to mention that qualifications have to be taken into account when you take a decision that can cost the lives of your team. Now, perhaps the best way to deal with it would be a leadership rotation. Each person should take a turn during a non-life-threatening situation, and everyone should agree to this plan. For life-threatening events, the survival group must have one individual as the recognized leader. The leader should be based on vote and qualifications. Again, voluntary compliance. This way, anything he or she decides is to be acted on without deliberations to expedite a quicker and more efficient response. Make sure you let people know about your survival group is governed Let them know how they can take part in the decision-making process. People will join more comfortably if they know these details from the start. What's another thing about survival group? It's about thriving. It will keep you alive, but that's not the primary goal. Apart from prepping for worst case scenarios, your survival group will keep you alive after the downfall. People need to understand that it's all about what comes after the crisis. And we might not be able to return to what the world once was. Lone wolves can and probably will survive a disaster. But what will they do after? No matter how much you will struggle, you will never be able to accomplish what a group can, and sooner or later, you will need some help. Everybody does. If you plan on providing food for your loved ones, agriculture is the long-term way to go, and most of the times, you need a number of people to make this work. What if you get sick? Who will take care of your chores? Who will take care of you? You need to survive, but afterward, you need to thrive. When you discuss with people about forming a survival group, don't go for the lone wolves. They will never join your group, and they will make you feel like you are fighting a losing battle, and that just isn't true. You are not fighting a losing battle. Forming a survival group is a challenge for anyone, and it requires a lot of determination. So just because you're a prepper or a survivalist doesn't mean you have to be a lone wolf. Try and form an alliance with like-minded people. Build long-lasting relationships if you want to survive to whatever the future might bring. United we stand, and we thrive. What do you think, Gare?
Hit it on the head.
There you go. Now, I want you, if you're new to the show, Gary lives in Louisiana. He lives off the grid. And he's, we talk about these skills. He has skills. Believe me, I've seen some of the stuff, the pictures he's posted. He's a great guy. He's somebody that will share his knowledge with you if you ask. If you don't ask, you will not learn. You will not know. It's just that simple. What have we got here? Well, how much time I got left? Okay, I got 6 minutes and 30 seconds left. I got 6 minutes and 30 seconds left. We got to get, because CRN is going to KYAH. Well, not going. We are becoming a part of the KYAH 540 AM family in Delta, Utah. We are. And so we have to start getting our show stretched out to get this 59 minutes and 50 seconds. That's what we have to do our shows till. And the reason is because that those 10 seconds at the end of the hour, the radio station needs to use that pursuant to FCC regulations for station identification. So that's why I keep looking at the clock. All right. Let's see. Let me see this real quick before I. Okay. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm not going to give you. If I have to give you an explanation for this, let me know, and I will. Just contact me if you need an explanation. ContraRadio@live.com. ContraRadio@live.com. These are 18 critical items to keep in your bob. Duct tape. I'll tell you. I'll say it, and Gary, you say yes or no. Duct tape.
Yes.
Rain poncho.
Yes.
A space blanket.
Yes.
A bush knife.
Definitely.
A multi-tool.
Yes.
We already talked about this. A flashlight or a headlamp.
Both.
Okay, both. Very good. Water. Duh.
Definitely.
No, we don't.
Life straw.
Yeah. The water? No, we don't need water. Who needs water? Number 8. Water purification method.
Yep.
Obviously, number 9 is a good one. Food.
Correct.
How about spare socks and underwear?
Definitely.
Ladies, don't forget your feminine hygiene products. Number 11, wet wipes.
Definitely.
I think it's a good idea too. Number 12, a compass.
A must.
I think so too. Number 13, lighter and matches.
Yes, but also a magnesium fire striker.
There you go. There you go.
Because
And
they're
you-
waterproof.
Yeah. Aren't those called ferro rods, or is that something different?
They may. There's umpteen different names for them.
Okay.
Mine's a magnesium rod with a deal that's got a flint on it, so when you can scrape it
Yeah,
and light it.
That's what I've
you
got.
just fire.
And it says the same thing, magnesium rod. That's why I'm not sure if I'm sure it probably is the same thing. Number 14
And it's
is
got space in your pack. It's a little drier when it works wonders too.
there you go. Number 14, Tinder. Man, you must be reading the same thing I am.
No,
Number 15, a first aid kit.
a must-have.
How about number 16, a sun covering?
Yes.
I think so too. Number 17, bandanas and a neckerchief.
I agree on that.
I do too.
100%.
Yeah, I would too. You could do a lot of things with it. And I said I wasn't going to, but in case you're wondering why, that humble piece of fabric can serve as a rudimentary first aid bandage, insulating layer, lashing, overflow pouch, coarse water filtration device, a
If you
placement,
get hot, you can wet it down and wet your head down.
a rag, sweatband, head covering, signaling device, and much more. So have at least 2 of those. Number 18 is a hygiene kit.
Definitely.
Yes, that means toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, and a towel. And all right, so
And
you know,
actually, a bottle of mouthwash could go in along there as well.
the won't hurt. God knows it
if you
won't
break
hurt.
a tooth or something, you got to have something you can disinfect it with.
There you go. Listerine, here I come. The conclusion really is what we're talking about is any bug out bag will start with the basics. And a core group of items that will be useful, it won't matter what kind of situation you find yourself in. So what we've talked about, use it as a guide. You can build out from there with items to address your own needs, strengths, and weaknesses. And once
And
you
also a radio in that list.
no, absolutely, it should be. Yeah, I agree 100%. And once you have your Bob packed, keep it handy, and pray you never need to use it. Look, I'm a prepper because I'm afraid the grid going down. I don't want the grid to go down, but if it does, I'd like
Must stay
to.
alive.
You know what? That's the motto here at CR Radio. You're absolutely right, Gary. Prep today, live tomorrow.
Live tomorrow.
And that's what it's about. It's not live next week. It's day to day to day. You work out.
And I'll be honest, I like to make sure that I have like I wear like cargo pants. For the
Oh
pocket.
yes. Oh yeah. I use the
That's
511s.
a lot
Yep.
of gear.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, sorry, had to get it. Well, tonight I'm drinking Gatorade Zero. It's a limited time offer. But after all that talking, it feels like I swallowed razor blades, so I gotta get something in there. I'm telling you. Excuse me. You know,
59.40.
you know what? I would add paracord to that list.
Oh yes.
Because you can do all kinds of fun stuff with paracord, and it's really good. It's good. It's a good product. I would add
Well,
paracord.
I like to
to it.
keep a machete and a hatchet with mine as well.
Yeah. Now don't forget, if you're doing this, remember, your physical fitness will determine how much you can carry and how far you can carry it too. All right. Hey, I'm down to my last 50 seconds here for tonight. Gary Mull, thank you so much for calling in, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You know what? You're the one that called in. You get a gold star today.
All right.
No, you do. You get a gold star, my friend. You get a gold star. And hey, thanks again. I really appreciate you contributing to the show. I like it. Makes the time go by faster, and it reminds me of when you say things, it triggers something I have to remember too. All right.
Well, it goes both ways.
Ah, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, this has been John Jeffers with Gary Mull calling in from Louisiana, saying thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining us here on the Jeffers Brief. I'll talk to you then. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right.